Arkansas, all sports. It's more sports.
All right, what's going on, everybody? I'm Wes Moore. Glad you're with us for another episode of More Sports. We're going to have a lot of fun tonight. We're going to talk some high school football. Thomas Thrash from Hootens Arkansas Football will join me in a bit. We're going to preview 6 of the biggest high school football games tomorrow night. But, you know, we're going to talk Razorbacks, the coaching search, the bye week, and all that good stuff. Kevin Bohannon from hogsports.com joins us tonight. And Kevin, welcome in. How are you doing, man?
Hey, doing good. It's been a busy week, Wes, but seems like things are calming down. Players are business as usual from what I hear and what I've talked to. So it's just about rebuilding in the middle of the year, which, you know, Bobby Petrino hasn't got to do before. So he can mark that off his resume to-do list.
Kevin, what are you hearing about practice so far? I know it's only been, Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe 3 days of practice. Are you hearing anything from inside?
Yeah, so far everything has got, and the players have gotten back to work. That's the biggest thing. So, you know, Petrino came out in his SEC teleconference on Wednesday, and we talked about it on the Buzz yesterday, that he's going to give the coach speak. He's going to, you know, the energy was there. But I've talked to a couple of players and even their parents to find out, and that's on both ends of the spectrum, guys that maybe towards the top of the roster and a starter, and guys that are there for the love of the game. And it's been what Petrino said, that the guys have shown up, they've gotten to work. They really bought into the fact of, look, they have to make themselves marketable for what's next. And so do the coaches. That's one of the things that hasn't been looked at, I don't think, hard enough throughout this whole transition, is the coaches that are lame duck at this point. They are, no matter who Petrino kept. But guys like Colby Smith, who may be auditioning for an offensive coordinator spot, who is getting to take that in title only. But as Bobby Petrino said on Monday, he's a guy that he trusts. And if he gets up and walks out of the room, he trusts him at that point. So they're getting back to work. The defense, one of the guys that I talked to on the defensive side of the ball, they've changed things a little bit. It's been a different feel as far as practice. There's a little bit more detail, and that's what I wrote about on Monday, that was one of Petrino's main deals, was he was going to get back to the basics, and he pays a little bit more attention to detail with things. So that's so far.
Yeah, that jives with exactly what I was told about one of their first practices, that it was slow, methodical, a lot of details, being in a specific, you know, it's what you think of Bobby Petrino, but also kind of a complete overhaul with the defense and some of the terminology and things that they're trying to do. So I think maybe they're going from trying to do too much, and it was confusing them, to doing simple things, but do it right. Do the simple things right.
Yeah, and that was the thing he pointed out, and I talked to Trey about, was, look, the defense in their alignment has been off because guys are thinking and they're playing slow. When you're thinking, you have slow feet. Slow feet lead to chunk plays on offense. I think I've told you that before. And that's what you've seen so far this year out of that defense. So if they're able to play fast and let your athletes go, one of the simplest defenses I ever saw, it was at the high school level, but it was Osceola back in the late 90s. And think of some of the athletes they had in the late 90s. Bo Mosley that went to Arkansas. Harold James that signed with Alabama. He didn't make it there. But they had Don Littleton. I think he went to ASU. His son playing there now. And then they had his younger brother, who was a scat back, who was like 5'5", 145, and ran a 4.3. And they just line up and came after you. Now, you can't do that at the collegiate level, but you can in a way. Think of John Thompson's defenses when they had the radar look and no defensive linemen were down in a three-point stance. They were all standing up, moving around, things like that. I'm not saying Arkansas is going to go to that, because the spread offense negates a lot of that type of defense now. But it's going to allow those guys to play fast and play without thinking and say, okay, I go to this spot and that's where I go. That's it.
Kevin, we're hearing a lot about, you know, some of the issues in the locker room, maybe offense versus defense.
Yeah.
And that's all I can think that can explain the effort. I'm not talking about alignment. I'm not missed tackles. I'm talking about effort and the lack of trying, because it's so weird to me that this defense and all the defenders always talked about loving T. Will and all the defensive coaches, but not to put any effort out and
Yeah.
not care. That's all I can think. Is that what you attribute to what we saw Saturday?
It has to, because I even talked about that on the offensive side of the ball, because they were under so much pressure to go out there and perform at a perfect level. And it's human psychology that you can break down from that. If you look at the studies and analytics of, when you're put in X situation, it's going to produce Y. So, but you go back to the defensive side of the ball, and they're like, well, at some point, you just don't care. And that's what it looked like.
Mm-hmm.
Houston Nutt said it best, and he always got his guys to play with heart and desire. And that was missing. I don't care if you're from Arkansas, like Quincy Rhodes, or if you're a one and done like Justice Boone, or you're here for a couple of years like Xavier Sorey or Steven Dix, guys that have been here a couple of years. Just to think that you can't go out there and give it your best shot, knowing, and I'm going to say it, and it may be controversial, but a lot of money has ruined how young used to be amateur athletes play the game. It has. Think about it. When you played for the love of the game and getting your education and going out there and not knowing what was next. But, if you got a few thousand in the bank or $500,000 waiting on you, you go out there, go through the motions. And I hate to say that, but we've seen that happen. We saw it happen at the University of Arkansas, Wes. I mean, think, KJ Jefferson has a great year in 2021. Well, it's time to get paid. So did Rocket Sanders. Where did they go from there? Downhill. So it's just, you can't help but go to there and say that, because it happens. It happens all across college football now. So I hate that happens, but I'd love to see more. Like I told you yesterday, you and Joe yesterday, I'd love to see him come out and play with some heart and desire and go out there and play with some passion.
I think that's all fans are asking for from here on out. Just
coach with passion too. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a huge thing.
Speaking of coaching, let's talk about it. There are a lot of names floating around and people being interested in the job. Who is somebody that interests you, that you think would be a good fit for what is at the University of Arkansas?
Yeah, and I talked to you guys about it, yesterday. I think Dan Mullen would be a really good fit. I really do. The guys that do this at a high level, and I'm talking about head coaches here, the guys that do it at a high level for a sustained period of time that are consistent in what they do. And you can put Bobby Petrino in that category. You can put Gus Malzahn in that category. They're a little off. They have a little quirk to them. They're a little weird. You call it crazy, call it weird, call it quirky, call it what you want. But, you've seen Lane Kiffin in press conferences and how he treats the availability report and things like that. You've seen Saban up 28 points in the national championship game in 2012 and coaching his rear end off, going nuts over a misalignment, over a missed call. Those guys seem to get it done. And Dan Mullen's one of those guys. He's had some crazy eyes. You go back and look. You can go to YouTube and look. Some crazy eyes at press conferences. But for what he's done, Wes, he took Mississippi State in 2015 to the number 1 ranking in the nation. Just let that sink in for a minute. Arkansas could have beat them that year. Brandon Allen had one of his best career games against Magnolia State schools that year. Ole Miss and Mississippi State. That was the 4th and forever play with Hunter Henry, the Henry Heave, and what him and Dak Prescott did in that matchup was just crazy. It was a block field goal away from, Arkansas possibly winning that game and upsetting number 1 that year. So you look back in what he did at Florida, they finished in the top 15, top 10, and he won a lot. And for him to be asked to leave after, he had a bad year, that happened. Maybe he lost his team because that happens to the best of them. When Bobby Petrino lost Lamar Jackson, he got asked to leave from Louisville. He had to kind of rebuild himself. So Dan Mullen's one that really stands out to me right now. I don't think Rhett Lashley comes to Arkansas. Everybody says it. I know Paul Feinbaum went out and said it, and Jerry Jones is backing him. I think it's going to be too hard to leave Highland Park. SMU's got a lot of money, and Wes, you know this just as well as I do. It's easier to get to the college football playoff out of the ACC than it is the SEC. So why would he do that? Is it just to come back home? I think he would have come back home already if he really wanted to do that. You know, when he left with Gus, he stayed with Gus until it was time for him to go out on his own. So, you know, that's a little bit both ends of the spectrum. But when you coach Alex Smith, Tim Tebow, Dak Prescott, you got a lot of good things to look back for. But the bad thing is he was out of coaching for 3 years, and he got a $7 million buyout, even at UNLV.
Well, I think that lit his fire. And to Lashley, you know, if Jerry Jones is backing him, the one thing that might make him leave there is money. And if Jerry really truly wants to back him, then, you know, we need to get that extra money. But for NIL and, you know, to make sure he has the players like he does at SMU to come to Arkansas. What about some of the smaller, and I don't want to say smaller names, but guys that are up and coming guys? You know, you mentioned Fran Brown at Syracuse. Yeah. I like that name. Summerall at Tulane, but is that good for Arkansas, or does Arkansas at this point need a big name hire to really get fans excited, boosters excited, big money guys excited, so that the program can get the funds that they need and really deserve to compete in the SEC?
So this is the first NIL hire. I know Calipari did it in basketball, but this is the first football NIL era hire. So I think you have to think differently about how you vet candidates. Okay. So evidently there's been a search firm hired. Now, do they give a recommendation? No, they're used to vet, go through backgrounds, make sure that, you know, you don't have a Notre Dame, Georgia O'Leary situation where you're lying on your resume. Okay. So that's where you go, you use that search firm for, and they can run through the candidates. And Hunter Yurachek said the other day, he's like, look, I have a big, long runway. All right. So you get to vet everybody you want to vet, then bring them in, yada, yada, yada. And that search firm is going to help keep things close to the vest. Okay. So looking at Fran Brown, you know, he's in my generation. He's 43. I'm 44. Okay. Took Syracuse to a 10-3 record. And I mentioned on the buzz yesterday with you and Joe that, you know, Kirby Smart really didn't like to lose him as a coach. And he wasn't a DC. He wasn't Dan Lanning. He was coaching D-backs at Georgia. And just think, you lose a position coach that goes to a P4 school and is the head coach. So, and he was only in the secondary at Georgia for 2 years. So they hadn't won more than 6 games in the previous 5 years before Brown got to Syracuse. And now they won 10 games. So only one full season as a head coach, but maybe you need to think like that, or somebody that can relate to today's player. Dan Mullen's getting his first taste of it right now. You know, Barry Odom's had to do it the last few years. You know, he's gotten back into the head coaching realm at UNLV and now at Purdue. I know his name has been floated out there. Guys like Alex Golish at Southern Florida, you know, Eric Morris at North Texas. Those guys are kind of in that Fran Brown realm of young guys who can do a lot with a little. Now, I don't want to discourage fans when I say that, because right now Arkansas is having to do the most with the little that they got. And, you know, if somebody that can come in like that and can turn it around and brings a youthful energy, and even Dan Mullen can bring a youthful energy at 53. You know, maybe he's rejuvenated at that point. But I don't think they really get somebody that's a big name, older hire at this point.
Be careful about talking about 53 being old. I'm 54. Okay.
Hey, so Wes, you don't look 54, brother. I can promise you that.
It still stings when you hear, well, he's 53, you know.
In coaching years, yes.
All right. What goes through your mind when you hear John Gruden?
He's great at what he does now. And, you know, the fired Football Coaches Association, FFCA, and going through the quarterback room, and, you know, he's selling his image right now. Mm-hmm. It's been, 30 years since he stepped foot on a college campus to coach. That's That's a wild hair right there. You might as well put Nick Saban in that same comment. I just don't see it happening, Wes. I can't see that happening. As much as he loves it and wants to, the game, and as much as he's involved in the game, I think it would just be too much. Now, would fans get excited? Yeah. Would he make a lot of people mad? Absolutely. He would step on toes and do things. But can the kids be coached like that? Bobby Petrino's had to change the way he communicates and relates to kids, from what he did back when, and DJ said it the best, and Joe Adams and Jarius Wright, it may not be on the Christmas card list, but he's going to make you better and you're going to win football games. So can you relate to those type of kids? And that's why Nick Saban, one of the reasons how he kind of stepped aside, it was, some things it's just changed and you can't coach kids the way you used to.
Out of all the long shots that people like to throw out there, and I said let's swing for the fences. You did it for Calipari, and you shocked the world. Try it again, but out of a Dabo, a Gruden, I'd call at least Nick Saban and see. I mean, and see if you couldn't get Jerry Jones or some money like that and pay him 12, 13, 14 million to come back. But out of all those long shots, what's the most least likely, I guess, or the most as likely, very likely is it? Who would you say there's a shot?
If you want to say it's likely, I mean, it would be a Gruden. As much as I say that it couldn't happen, a guy that wants to go to the SEC, and I know Brett Favre gave his recommendation. He said it'd be a good fit. That would have to be a vetting situation where you go into, what happened when he got dismissed by the Raiders, everything that he's gone through. Is that something you want to bring to the University of Arkansas? It would have to be something like that. I couldn't put Nick Saban in that. Now, it could be, Wes, that they call in Saban like they did Coach Cal and say, okay, give me some recommendations. Who's some of the guys that you've worked with that could really do this and really turn. And the more you talk about it and the more you say it, it's kind of like when Cheney kept telling George W. Bush, no, I'm not going to be your vice president. But Cheney kept telling him the traits and everything to look for in a vice president, and he just kept explaining himself. Well, at the end of it, George W. Bush said, you're the guy I'm looking for. You've told me everything you want. You're that guy. So maybe it could be that situation, but like you said, that's on the far end of the spectrum.
Kevin, awesome stuff. Thank you so much. We appreciate you joining us.
Anytime, brother. Thanks.
All right, let's talk a little high school football now. Joining us once again, Thomas Thrash from Hootens, Arkansas football. We're ready to preview some of the big games tomorrow night. What's up, Thomas? How are you?
I'm doing great. It's football season, so can't complain.
Yeah, no doubt. And the weather's getting nicer, and now it's conference play, and we got some big games to talk about and to predict. Although after our performance last week, I don't know how much stock people will put in our picks. I went 2-4 last week, Thomas, and you went 1-5.
Hey, so I texted the show to Kane Archer and Coach Young on the way to the game. Just said, hey, y'all aren't going to be able to see it, but I'm picking Shiloh just to stir the pot a little.
Well, I mean, looking back at our picks, we both had Fayetteville. Bentonville West upsets them. Uh-huh. We split on – you had Shiloh, I had Greenwood. I got you there. I had Greenbrier. You had Morrilton. I got you there. We both picked Arkadelphia. Then we had another upset with
wow.
And let's see. We split on Palestine, Wheatley, and Risen.
Hey, you were almost right, though.
That was a heck of a game, but yeah, you got me there. And then the last one, we both picked Desark, and Earl gets a mild upset. So
my one
picking the best games, and anybody can win these games.
My one game that I got right was almost a loss too. They had the ball driving, and so Palestine was up, and it came down to the final minute. So I could have been 0-6. That would have been bad.
No, if you would pick some easier games for us, and we would, but that's not what we're here for. We're here to talk about the best games. So let's get started. Let's start in 7A, and the Hootens.com game of the week is Pulaski Academy going over to Central High School. And I look at this, Thomas, and for Pulaski Academy, I think if they win this game, that pretty much gets them in the playoffs with still a game with Southwest coming up. But with wins over North Little Rock and Central, this is a big game for both schools. If Central wants to go to the playoffs, they need to win this game.
I mean, Central's playing really well. I mean, they just got off a win 2 weeks ago versus Heritage, and of course, you get beat 64-0 against Bryant, but a lot of teams are getting beat that bad. So, I mean, they've won 2 games. They're 2-2 this year, and you think about how far they've come, and Coach Robinson and what he's done, that staff, and I mean, they've had to work so hard just to get them where they are now, and they extend and. Was a 26-game losing streak, was broken last year. So, I mean, they're playing with a lot more energy. PA, this is the first time they've been 1-3 since the 90s. I mean, seriously. And so they played well in the second half against North Little Rock. We'll see if that momentum can carry them.
I was there at the Pulaski Academy game Thursday night, and it was on TV. And after the game, Coach Lucas kept saying, we're 1-0. That was the message. Instead of, 1-3, like you're saying, all they're concerned about, they're 1-0, and they got that conference win. Now they're looking to go 2-0. I'll make the pick on this one first. I think Pulaski Academy gets it done. I saw some signs, some growth from their sophomore quarterback in the second half. I think they ride that momentum like you're talking about, that confidence. Hey, you lose 3 in a row at PA, the confidence is shaking a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And I think
I thought at halftime, the way they came out at halftime showed me a lot.
Yep.
Because it was was it a 1-score game? I mean, 1-point game and a half or 3-point game, and going in there, they're on the border of going 0-4 if they don't come out and do something. And they showed a lot of toughness.
Who you got?
I got PA.
Okay, we'll agree on the 7A game. Let's go to the 6A game of the week, and we're taking a look at Mountain Home and Shiloh Christian. At Shiloh Christian, Shiloh trying to bounce back after the loss to Greenwood, and I had a buddy that's got some inside information. He was telling me how banged up Shiloh was last week against Greenwood. It made me feel better about my pick, but I tell you what, to give them credit, a banged up Shiloh Christian team still played Greenwood very well.
Well, and Greenwood's banged up too. So, that was just a great heavyweight fight. Shiloh, I mean, really impressed me, their night. Defense, they flew to the ball. They, defensive line did a good job. Had 2 interceptions on Kane Archer. So I was really impressed with Shiloh. I mean, I think those 2 teams are right up there at the top, and then Mountain Home is right there with them. We're going to find out a lot about Mountain Home this week. Barrett Miller is going off every week. Huh?
Who's your pick?
I guess I got to go with the Saints again. The Saints let me down last week, but I'm picking this week.
All right, let me disagree with you. I like Mountain Home. I like their physicalness. They're a tough team, and Shiloh back-to-back weeks, injuries factor. I'm gonna go with Mountain Home on the road. If it was in Mountain Home, I'd feel a lot better about this pick. But I'm gonna roll the dice and have a little mild upset here with Mountain Home.
That's not a bad pick.
Let's go to 5A. Take a look at your Hootens.com game of the week. We got Farmington at Harrison.
Tommy Tice returns.
Wow.
Yes, this should be a fun game. Just the return of Tommy Tice and what he's done for Harrison when he was coaching there. Won him a state championship in 1999, and now he gets the finals with the Farmington team last year. So he brings them back to his old stomping ground. This should be a great atmosphere.
Oh, how do you think they got to welcome him, right?
I have to. I mean, you have to.
He's a legend.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's no way they don't welcome him. It's just.
Will they welcome him after the game? That's the question.
No. No. There'll be some hugs, but I'm going with Farmington in this one.
Me too.
Tommy Tice has won a lot of games on that field.
Yeah, and he knows how to win there. Let's go to 4A. Take a look at the Hootens.com 4A game of the week. It is Clinton at Pottsville, and Clinton's got a huge game next week also with Dardanelle, but they can't afford to look ahead to that game because they got a big one this week at Pottsville on the road. What a tough 2-week test for Clinton. At Pottsville, then at Dardanelle, back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, who did Pottsville beat last week? It's oh my gosh. Coming off a huge win. Was it Mina? They beat Mina, sorry. It was a big win and got them to 3-1. They're kind of coming in high. Obviously Clinton cannot be looking forward to the next week game. I mean, Dardanelle is lurking over there in the over your shoulder, but you got to focus on this game because this possible team, is playing well.
I'm having a hard time with this one, man. Thomas, this is a flip of the coin, in my opinion. Once again, I felt like if they were playing this at Clinton and they get that run game going, that they could take care of business. I like what Pottsville's doing, man. I'm on the fence on this one.
I'm going Clinton. I'm going Yellow Jackets.
You know what? I am too. I think that's going to set up a huge showdown next week with Dardanelle. No look ahead for Clinton. I'm putting faith in you, Clinton. Come on,
Coach. Get them ready because that will be a huge game next week.
Yeah, that is already.
It's a huge game this week too. So don't overlook them.
Yeah, we've already named it our Buzz Game of the Week. We're going to be there broadcasting the game live for the Dardanelle game. Yeah, I think that's
awesome.
That's huge. Yeah. All right. I do not feel good about that pick. I'm so on the fence. Let's move down to 3A. This is a good one. The Tigers. Charleston at Mansfield. Mansfield gets the narrow victory last year in Charleston. This year, Mansfield hosting Charleston. What a conference game, man. That is two of the best teams in the state right there in 3A.
Yes. And we got our one of our better filmers up in Northwest Arkansas headed this game, and he was there last year, and it was just such an awesome game last year. I mean, and it's hard to bet against Ricky May. I mean, one of the best coaches in the state. Then Coach Whit Overton and what he's done in Mansfield in the 3 years. I mean, and the Burton boys are playing really well. I mean, it's tough to win at Mansfield. They've got a great atmosphere, and it's tough to stop that offense. But I'm going to go
Mansfield, though. I'm going Mansfield. I think they do it back-to-back years, and they're going to get it done at home.
Okay, I'm going Charleston Revenge.
Okay, I can't argue with you. I think that is I can't wait to see this score and how it propels the victor.
Because then you got Boonville over there too.
Yeah,
waiting around.
This is just step one of it. And then what happens to the loser of this game? How do they bounce back and get ready for the playoffs and get ready to play Boonville? Yeah, that's a good conference right there. Let's go to the 2A game of the week from Hootens.com. And it's Earl at Mark Tree. And Earl, when we talked about it, got the upset last week at Des Arc. And now they turn around and go to Mark Tree.
Yeah. I mean, that 2-point win. Hurst passed for almost 300 yards. I think this Earl team is too tough. Mark Tree coming off that forfeit win last week, so they hadn't played in 2 weeks, and I hate having essentially a bye especially early in the season. You know, you get out of rhythm.
And that's 2 weeks off, and 2 out of 3 weeks off for them, or 4? 2 out of 4 weeks off for Mark Tree.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah,
they had their bye for the non-conference, and that's a
so they hadn't played in 3 weeks.
Oh, so they have back-to-back buys.
So you almost hadn't played in a month.
Wow. Well, Thomas, they're either fresh and healthy, or they're going to be rusty. Which is it?
I think they're going to be rusty. I'm going Earl in this one.
I agree with you. I mean, what a great win last week against Des Arc. The confidence should be rolling for Earl. They should be feeling very good about themselves and see if they can't do it in back-to-back weeks. All right, that's a look.
These are some good games this week. It's starting to get really, really good. Last week's games were great. The Greenwood game, gosh, that was so much fun. Have you been to a Greenwood game at Greenwood?
Not in years.
It was just such a cool atmosphere. The cannon guy goes off. The cannon goes off essentially before he even scores. You know, it's like the ball crosses the goal line and the cannon's going off. And I mean, it's definitely influencing officials because you don't have a choice. If once the cannon goes off, you have no choice to go, okay, touchdown.
Yeah, it scares you. You put your hands up in the air and
the lights are going. Yeah. He's worth 7 points a game easy.
That's awesome. That's why we love high school football right there.
The
All
Kenny
right.
guy did tell me, though, he did let a kid do it once, and he did it a little early and a couple years ago, and he won't do it again.
That's great stuff. Thomas, I hope we do better on our picks this week, but you know what? We'll be here next week to talk about it.
All right, good.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Hey,
Have a
thanks
good
a lot.
weekend.
You too.
Thomas Thrash from Hootens.com joining us. And we're going to talk more high school football tomorrow night. You know, we're going to have our post-game show. I'll have coaches from all over the state joining us to give us a recap of their games. And we'll take a look at all these games that we talked about tonight and many more coming up tomorrow night. Please join us tomorrow night for more sports.
All Arkansas, all sports. It's more sports. All Arkansas, all sports. It's more sports.